In this presentation, we will continue on with part 7 of our comprehensive partnership problem, this time entering the income statement into our tax return. We will be using software, that software being Lacerte owned by Intuit, the owners of QuickBooks. Here we are in our Form 1065. In prior presentations, we had entered the balance sheet. We got the balance sheet all set up. Now we're going to be entering the income statement side back to page 1. This is going to be the primary function of the 1065 because we're going to be taxed on the income. Now we're going to enter that into the first page of the 1065. So it's going to be here up top. Note that the first page of the 1065 will basically be on a tax basis. So what we're going to do is we want to take the information that we currently have, and that's going to be on our trial balance within our worksheet. We're going to be working on the income statement, the sales on down, and this is on a book basis because that's all we have at this point in time. In other words, if I unhide these cells, right click and unhide, we don't have any tax adjustments yet. We're going to think about the tax adjustments at a later time. So these ending balances aren't really the tax balances yet because we haven't made any adjustments. However, we want to take these ending balances and enter them into the system directly. I'd like to get to this bottom line number, which is basically the net income. Here, this is the net income, a book basis. This is the revenue minus the expenses. This is what was given to us. We can imagine by basically the client or what we got from our system for net income of the $355,278. We want to get to that number, and then we're going to go back in and do the kind of adjustments that we'll need in order to get to the tax basis. So in order to do that, first of all, I'm going to fix this formula right here. I'm going to pull that up all the way up to the sales, so it should be adding up all the way down here. So there we have that. Here's the formula up top, so you can data input that. I'm going to do the same thing here. It should be going all the way up to the sales. So here I'm going to pull this up to the sales. Here's the formula, the sum of R19 colon R39. So that's what we want. Now I'm going to go ahead and hide some of these cells so we only see one set of numbers. That'll make it easier on the eye. So I'm going to hide cell N, or columns N to Q, let go, right click the selected area and hide. So now we're just looking at the last column. Again, this is our book numbers, however, even though it says the tax numbers here because we haven't entered any adjustments yet. We're focusing down here on the sales on down. If we go to our tax forms, you'll note that in the first page we already have some information included, in which is the depreciation. We're going to have to deal with that in some way because it may not match what we have in our system. We'll deal with that as we go. Our goal is to not really enter any kind of M1 adjustments or any adjustments, but to enter it exactly like it is and get to the first page of the tax return to be this bottom line number. Then go back and enter those adjustments in a one by one so that we can do it and be in balance as we go. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to go to the sales first. So I'm going to go back up top. We're going to go to our sales. So that's going to be up here. I can actually jump to it if we so choose. And we're going to pick up the sales of the 650. So I'm going to say this is 650000. Next. And we could highlight these as we go. We might want to cross them off in some way. We could highlight the whole thing and say, yeah, that one has been completed. And then we're on the returns. That's going to be the 20,000. That's right underneath returns. There we have that. If I go to the page forms, there's our gross sales. There's our returns for the difference of 630,000. So I'm going to say there we have that. Then we have the cost of goods sold. Now note we have the cost of goods sold at 150,000. If we go to our worksheet though, we could go to the worksheet that would basically be the cost of good calculation, beginning balance plus purchases minus ending balances. Right now, I don't want to go to the worksheet. I don't want to do the whole worksheet. What I'd like to do is just basically enter the ending numbers and get in balance once again. So to do that, we can put in the purchases column the 150,000. Now note that if you had something, 150,000 in the beginning balance, that the calculation, as long as your beginning balance and ending balance are the same, then this number will be what shows up. That's all we really want right now. So if I go back over to the forms, in other words, there's the 150,000. What if and this had a beginning number that was already here populated from rolling forward last time of say 50,000. Well, I don't want to do the calculation right now because I may not know the purchases in the ending. I may not know exactly what it is. So what I want to do is just say I could say the ending balance is the same thing at 50,000, and that'll keep this number being the number that will then calculate at the 150. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and make that yellow and say, hey, I probably need to go back to that, get more detail, and add the correct cost of goods sold equation, but I don't want to break it out now. I just want to basically deal with that one number at this time. Next, we have the wages. So I'm going to go back over and input the wages. We have the salaries and wages here, line 9. I'm going to jump to it, salaries and wages, and that's going to be for the amount of 78400. Back to the forms. There's the 784. All right, so I'm going to make that green. We've completed that one, which is nice. Then we're going to go to the property taxes. So back to the property taxes, taxes and licenses, line 14. Going to jump to it. I want to go to the taxes here. And we have within the taxes, we have the personal property taxes. So I'm going to say that that's what we have, and that's the 1400. Personal property taxes. And then we have the payroll taxes. That's going to be the 2550 payroll taxes. So that will be here, 2550. Back to the forms, and so that has been done. And then we have the depreciation. Now what we're doing is kind of crossing our fingers here and say, well, I hope, the tax software calculated the correct depreciation here, all right, or the same depreciation. If we go back over here, we say, did it? If I go to the tax software, no. Because now, if it was using a tax depreciation and we had no purchases or disposals, then hopefully it would, calculate the right depreciation, or possibly we're dealing with a client that we would have to do the depreciation calculation for them for the current year. But so in this case, we're going to say, all right, it's not the same, so we're going to have to do something happen here. Therefore, I'm going to go back to it again. So I'm going to make this yellow. And I'm going to say I would like to just make it what it needs to be in balance right now, and then go back and fix it. So it's at 38,571. So I'm just going to jump to the depreciation. I'm going to look for the override. There's the override. And I said it was 38,5. Is that what it was? 38,571. So 571. So now I'm going to override it, going back to the forms. We forced it to be that 38,571. We're going to have to go back and fix that, but that's what we're going to keep for now, and that's going to help us to push forward. Then we're going to go to the advertising. So advertising, I'm going to go back to the data input. That's going to be here. That's going to be for 3,500. So there we have that. Then we've got the office expenses. So I'm going to find the office expenses, and that's for 2100. So we'll scroll back over here. We're looking for office expenses, and that's for 2100. There we have that one. I'm going to highlight it, and then we have the repairs, often called repairs and maintenance in the tax software. So we're looking for repairs and maintenance. Might be easier to actually jump to it. There's repairs and maintenance here. I'm going to right click and jump to it using the jump feature, which is nice and Lizard. That's the 2950. So 2950. Going to go back to the forms, back to our data, and we found that one. Then we have miscellaneous, so we're looking for miscellaneous. Back to the forms, miscellaneous. We'll go to the data input. The data input typically has a miscellaneous screen, even though it's under the others section in the forms. So here's miscellaneous. That's going to be for the 650, so 650, and we'll make that one green. Then we have the meals. Now note that the meals is one, you want to check the law because it used to be meals and entertainment. There's some changes and restrictions down to what's deductible for meals. But considering if this is deductible, there's always that 50% deduction oftentimes with meals. So note that if you put that into the software, most software has basically meals that it'll take that 50% deduction when you input it, which kind of messes our system up here. So if I find the meals data input, here it is, and I put the full amount in there, note I'm going to put the 1600. It's going to take the 50% for me. This is where you have to kind of know, is the software trying to help me? Is it doing something for me or not? Is it, what is the software doing? Here, if I go check it, I say, is it going to do, yeah, it took 800. That's going to make it so I can't really reconcile this bottom line, however. And it's going to automatically do the adjustment for me, which will be on line 5, which we'll talk about later, which is the 800 here in the travel and entertainment section of the M1. But I don't really want it to do that yet because I want to be able to do that one by one in a manual system. So you got to know when the software is trying to help you and when you want the help or not. Right now, I'd like to say, you know what, I would just like the full amount to be deducted and not here. Now, I could double this, but it'll still create an M1 that's going to throw me off. So what I'm going to do, and again, if you have someone watching you do this, they're going to say that's not the right data input, but you want to input the system so that you're in balance and then go back in and fix it. I think that'll be an easier way to do it. Now, obviously, this is an M1 that everybody knows about, so you might say, well, it's an easy M1. I can just, memorize it and I should be okay with it. And that's fine. That's true. But when you just have, 10 different M1s that you're basically looking at, then it becomes confusing. So it's best just to do it one at a time so that you could systematically see what's going on. So I'm going to put it down here in others, meals, and I'm going to put this 1600 down here for now, knowing that I'm going to have to change that. That's not really where I want it to go, and that it's going to be recording twice what it should be, right? But it's still going to show up, in this case, in the others section. So it's in others, meals. Okay, so now we have the full amount there. I'm going to make that yellow because we need to go back to it. As you do this, you might want to have notes as well, like an open items list, a notepad next to you, or just a Word document with notes. And just jot down everything that you're going to go back to. So you could go back to the equipment, and you could have any kind of questions on the return you can put down into the open items. Typically, I'll have a notepad open or a Word document open. But you can also indicate that with basically the colors here in the system too, if you're using Excel, which I think is a great tool. And then you can go back and just basically fix the ones that you've color coordinated that you want to go back and fix. All right, next we're going to have the insurance. So I'm going to go back to the insurance we want to pick up. Going to go into the details, and we're looking for insurance, which is here, and that's going to be for the 4850. So that's going to be the 4850 for the insurance. Back over, we're going to highlight that and say that has been found. And then we've got the gain on sale of securities. Now, sale of securities, we're going to imagine that we're selling like stocks and bonds or some type of investment possibly. And that would be reported in a Schedule D. So I need the detail of that. However, I don't want to dig up the detail right now. I want to get to our bottom line number of this. So I'm gonna go and put this in some other location and then go back to it once again. So I'm going to say, all right, and the more you can do this, it'll be easier to do, because if you branch out and start using other schedules that are feeding into the the 1065, the more you do that without originally reconciling, again, it just gets confusing, not because any one piece is confusing, but because now there's all this other data that is feeding in and you haven't really reconciled it to begin with, and that makes it a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up top, and I'm going to say, I'm just going to enter this directly into income. I'm going to put it into other income, knowing that we're going to have to adjust it. I'm going to call it gain on sale of securities. Let's call it gain on sale of securities, and I'm going to say that that is for 1350. So I'm going to say 1350. And I'm going to do this for all of these items down here. So I'm going to make that yellow. This one here, gain on sale of equipment. Well, we knew something funny was happening because with the equipment, the property, plant, and equipment, because the depreciation wasn't the same, although it wouldn't be anyways, because we had a difference between book and tax, and because we had a difference in the equipment here that didn't roll forward as well. So we had a sale that happened. So we had some kind of gain here on the sale of equipment. So we'll do the same thing. I'm going to have to, that's going to be one that's probably the most difficult one that we'll have to deal with. So right now, I don't want to deal with it right now, because if I can even isolate that down to itself, it's still complicated, right? So I don't want to be dealing with that and not being able to reconcile. I'd like to reconcile, then go over and let the reconciliation process help me to figure out what this sale of equipment is going to do and this resulting gain for it. So I'm going to force this to happen again. I'm going to say that we're going to go over here and say that we had a gain on the sale of equipment, gain on sale of equipment, and that's going to be 416,399. So 16399, and I'm going to make that yellow. That's a big one. That's going to be a problem. And then we've got the dividend income, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the dividend income here because I think there may be an adjustment we'll need with the Schedule K adjustment. So I'm going to do the same thing for the dividend and the interest income, because I'm going to say these are investment income, and we may need to have adjustments to them. And plus, this one, some of it was for interest on tax exempt notes, which we may have to need an adjustment for as well. So I'm going to put these. I'm going to make these two yellow as well. I'm going to say that we have dividend income. I'm just going to put that into income now, and that one was for the 750. So we're going to pick up the 750 there. So 750, and then interest income is going to be for the 3750. So 3750 there. We'll say okay. There we have that. And what's next? I'm going to make these yellow, so that means we're going to have to go back to those. And then we have the interest on the note, so I'm going to go back to the interest on the note. Now, if it's normal business interest, this is interest we paid now on the note, then you would think that would be something that would be deductible. So I'm going to go here to deductions. We're looking for the interest. So we have the interest expense. That's going to be for the 5400. So 5400. That looks good. I'm going to go back and say that's good. Or that one's green, not yellow. I've been making everything yellow. I'm used to yellowing things, but this one's green, meaning it's good. And then we have the cash charitable contributions. This is another one that if it's on the return and you have charitable contributions, like to a charity, then it's something that will typically be an adjustment that we want to pull over and flow through to the schedule, to the 1040s. So it's going to go to the K1 to the 1040s. So we need to pull this out. But right now, I'm going to enter it into the deduction again because I don't want to deal with the adjustments right now. I want to get to this number first and then go back and do the adjustments one by one. So I'm going to go back over and I'm going to say, all right, we're just going to put this into the other category down here. And I'm going to say contributions. And this is going to be for 5,000. 5,000. We're going to have to go back and fix that. We'll do that later. And then I'm going to go back up top and we're going to say, all right, does this line up? We have the bottom line number, 355,278. So 355,278. If I scroll down here, we have 355,278. Looks good, right? Now, if there's a problem there, then I can easily go back and basically tick and tie everything off. Now, not really easily because this is the longest data input form, is the actual income statement. But what you want to do is basically tie everything out, and the more you can tie everything out one to one, like this number ties out to, this number, and you could basically tick and tie everything out, the easier it's going to be. When you have like multiple type of accounts over here that you need to add up to tie into one number over here, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and vice versa. And if you're feeding in, if you have other schedules like M1 and Schedule K type of adjustments, and you're trying to keep all that in your head as you do the data input, unless you're very, your mind can only remember so many things. So what you want to do is make that as simple as possible, and then tick and tie all these out. You want to tick and tie all these out, and if everything is directly on this statement, you'll be able to tick and tie things out fairly easily. Again, if you have to add up multiple numbers here, the more you can, enter directly from one place to the other, it's going to be an easier process. Now, we've kind of forced this to happen because this is actually the book income now, and this needs to be the tax income. So any kind of M1 or Schedule K adjustment, we totally basically overrode it. That's indicated by all of our yellow items here. So we're going to have to, and then we're going to go back one by one and fix things. As we do so, we'll see it as a journal entry. So we'll do the one side and then the other side. So in other words, when we enter that here, if there's an M1 adjustment, we'll enter the M1 adjustment one thing at a time, and we'll see that, we'll be in balance before we'll enter the adjustment, and then we should be in balance afterwards, and then we can reflect it over here on our statement as well. Now, speaking of being in balance, we now have the income statement in. If I go back to our Schedule L, then our hope is that we're now in balance, right? If I go to the Schedule L and I say, well, now I have my income, which should be the reconciling factor between the partner's capital account here. So you'd think that now we'd be in balance, right? But we're not, so we still have a problem. We still have a problem here. So our next step is to reconcile this difference, which hopefully is just going to be the distributions. You would think the difference would be the distributions. So what we've done now is we're up to having basically our income statement in. We're happy that this lines up. Doesn't quite fix our problem on the balance sheet, so we're assuming that there's going to be a distribution. We haven't entered any of the M1s. You'll see there's nothing in the M1 section here, and there's nothing in the Schedule K on page 4, or significant items here on the Schedule K. We're going to enter those in a one-by-one system. So first thing we'll do, or the next thing we'll do, we'll go to the Schedule K. We'll get our balance sheet reconciled. Once the balance sheet's reconciled, then we're going to go back and we're going to pick up each of these yellow items one by one.